Good morning. How are you this morning? I'm Tracy Prachu with the RCAW, and we're so happy that you tuned in. I have Gary Smith from the IBA who's going to share a ton of information with us today, and we're so excited to have you here. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Gary. One housekeeping item that we have is please go ahead and make sure everything's muted on your end. And if you have any questions, type them into the question box and we'll stop periodically to answer them. All right, thank you. And here you go.
Thank you, Tracy. Tracy's been doing amazing work here, putting all this together. I know she was working all day Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So thank you, Tracy. You've done really well. You all should see the slides on your computer screen right now. The slides were going to look like this, and we're going to talk about two things today. One is the process of getting to reopening the construction industry, and then the reopening of the roofing industry as it is now allowed. So there's some things we can't get into, antitrust issues. We can't talk about prices, costs, markups, all kinds of different things. We can't talk about people we want to do business with or people we don't want to do business with, margins. All of that stuff is prohibited by federal and state law. Understand that this is brand new, and so there's some disclaimer here that we're going to tell you what we know based upon the information now available, but things are changing. So this is not legal advice, and you shouldn't use it as legal advice. If you have legal questions, you need to talk to a qualified attorney. So we're going to talk first about the essential business order issued by the governor on March 23rd. He talked about the stay-at-home order, and he required the closure of many businesses unless they were essential businesses. So that's how we got started in this. On the 28th, there was some clarification, and there was an order issued that roofing projects supporting non-essential activities may be completed and emergency repairs can be done, but nothing beyond that. So this is an expansion of what you have been able to do, but what we explain here will be applied to all roofing projects. This is important to understand. You might not have been doing this stuff now. You're going to have to do this stuff moving forward. So please pay close attention. So this is a plan to allow current construction projects to be completed. This, if you got a new home under construction and it's going to need a roof down the road here, you can do that work, but you can't start building a new house at this point under the current order. So understand that the current way of enforcing the stay-at-home order for essential businesses is primarily a complaint basis. People can fill out a form on the Washington State website saying somebody's working and shouldn't be working. And if they receive a notice like that, they will probably send a letter to a company asking, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? And notifying you of the law. A second violation, they may threaten to take away your contractor registration. Third violation, you may be subject to a unfair business practice, $2,000 fine plus other damages potentially. So that's how the current situation goes. Is there any questions about how we got to where we're at today?
Yes, there's one question here, and it says, regarding current projects as the only projects that can be worked on, can you clarify this?
Basically, it has to already be started. I mean, in some stage of construction. You can't just start a new project under this order. That part has not been done yet. This is a phased in startup. So that's where we are currently. Any other questions?
Yes, if a homeowner is under contract and needs the re-roofed, can we start and finish it?
Yes, but you're gonna have to comply with all this stuff.
One more here. What about repair on existing structures?
Yes, but you're gonna have to comply with all these items that we're gonna talk about in the next section here.
And that is the last one at this point in time.
We'll get a lot more now. Get ready, folks. So we're switching to roofing with the COVID disease protection. This is not business as you were doing in January and February. This is going to be different. So I'm trying to really make sure you understand this is different. Again, this thing is changing. It could change daily. So it's really important that you try and make sure you understand what's going on. You're going to have to do some work to get prepared. This is not legal advice, and if you need legal advice of what to do, you need to talk to a qualified attorney. I'm calling this project Goal COVID Zero, meaning that the roofing companies can get back to work and get roofing workers back to work. The second primary goal is to avoid infecting workers with COVID-19. And the third is to avoid violation and penalties. And we're going to talk about all three of those. So this requires you to do some real serious studying. We don't just today open up the door and say, we're going back to work like we used to do. Totally different. You have 30 new requirements to comply with. You need to do some planning. You're going to be developing a written job site COVID plan just as one of the items. You're required to provide PPE before going back to work, including tepid hand washing facilities, tepid being 60 to 100 degree water. Training, active management implementation. You need to oversee what your workers are doing, not just hope they comply. And you have to comply with the requirements or you're going to be subject to citation. So that's just an introduction. We're actually going to go through all 30 new requirements. Tracy and Jennifer have been very busy. You can go to the RCAW website and there's all of these new documents available to you. I'm not going to go through each one of them. We'll talk about various ones as we go along here, but there's a lot of documents. There's another page of documents that are available to you. You can get these documents at the web address shown on this slide, slide 11. By the way, you will be able to have all of these slides. These slides are available at the end of the presentation. You'll have a link so you can access all of these slides and links and everything else. There in the middle of the page is an active link where you can click on the link and go to the RCAW website and get all of those items that are on that website. I want to thank Tracy and Jennifer, their hard work for putting all of this together. I can tell you they worked many hours, well over regular hours, putting all this together. There's actually 2 documents that are not included there. I'm sure Tracy will put them on the website. And this is another required poster that's part of the going back to work process. It's a hygienic practices poster. It goes along with other posters that you're required to have on your job site in this process. Recommendation, that's from me. I would assume Tracy's going to agree, but along the way here, before you get started, read and understand these 3 documents. Read them carefully, really think about them. We're going to talk about them as we go along. Fully prepare to restart your roofing work before you actually restart your roofing work. Don't do this piecemeal. There isn't much that L&I has to do right now other than look at the construction industry, and roofers on a roof are pretty easy for L&I to find. So this is an important thing for you to prepare for very carefully. So we're going to start on the 30 items that are required for you to go back to work. So in some cases, you may have to have a site-specific COVID supervisor at the facility at all times. This does not apply to residential jobs or there are not more than 7 or more people on the job. You must conduct social distancing and have a meeting about your company COVID protection process, and you need to have a job site meeting on COVID along with the safety meeting for every job, every new job, and weekly thereafter. Attendance at the safety meeting will be verbally communicated, and the trainer will sign in each attendee. There's no passing around a pen, no passing around paper, none of that. Just write them down. When you set up your job site safety requirements, you need to post that on the job site. Again, it's not passed around. You post it on the job site. People can stand there with their own eyes and look and see what they're supposed to be doing. Social distancing effectively at all times, 6 feet or more. No gatherings of any size, including breaks, lunch, whatever. They can't have gathering at any time. Find situations where, maybe when people are coming to the job site, leaving the job site, everybody's together. You can't have choke points where people are together within 6 feet of one another. Minimize interactions with suppliers and others to ensure that there is social distancing at all times. Hopefully, you're the only sub on site and you still have to maintain social distancing between all of your workers. If you have another sub on site, it's really important that you coordinate and make sure that they and you coordinate to maintain social distancing. You have to provide personal protective equipment. They include gloves, goggles, face shield, and face mask as appropriate or as required by any other activity under the safety and health laws. There's mask requirements. In many cases, roofers probably only need a face mask, but here's a link to the Department of Health requirements on masks or recommendations on masks. Masks must be worn at all times by every employee on the job site. This is a requirement that is really easy for an inspector to check on, and we'll talk about enforcement in a while. Eye protection. One of the sources of COVID infection is via the eyes. So they want eye protection worn at all times on the work site. Gloves. In many cases, your folks probably already use gloves, but there's some cases where they may not. They can wear the appropriate glove, but at a minimum, they must be wearing something like a latex glove to protect against COVID transmission. If you can't provide the PPE equipment, the job must be shut down. So if an inspector arrives on your job site and says, where's this and where's that, and you don't have it, you're looking at a citation. This is going to be a difficult one. Soap and running water shall be abundantly provided at all job sites. Workers are going to be encouraged to wash their hands. You need to have a source of tepid water, running water, and soap so they can wash their hands. They can use, if they're not near the wash station, they can use hand sanitizers, but that's a secondary. That is not the primary. It's not an or. You have to have tepid water and sanitizer at the job site so that the workers can use it. One of the things comes down to the issue of you need to sanitize your hands. You're on the roof. You're not going to get down off the roof to go wash your hands. I don't know how you're going to deal with that, but hand sanitizer, they can have wipes in their pocket or something. That's something you're going to have to work out in your own company. You have to post in areas visible to workers all of the following. This is a new notice. This is the hygienic poster that I told you about a little earlier. Don't touch your face, wash your hands for 20 seconds, or use sanitizer. Disinfect touched surfaces, including tools. Cover mouth and nose when coughing or sneezing, as well as other hygienic recommendations by the U.S. Center for Disease Control. Again, we've put that kind of poster together for you from OSHA, and it's in, it was previously shown to you. I can show you the slide if you want. Make disinfectants available through the work site to ensure cleaning supplies are readily available. You need to frequently clean high-touch areas, primarily tools, especially shared tools. I call them in this presentation company tools, where maybe you're sharing a nail gun or you're sharing something else and you pair of snips or whatever. You need to make sure that those items are cleaned before and after use, and you have to have the cleaning mechanisms available in order to do so. If somebody's at the home that you're working on or the building you're working on, you need to sanitize the work area so there's not contamination of workers. And you need to coordinate with the people that are in the building or the home, staying at least 10 feet apart. You need to have a process for to encourage employees to report if they feel ill, and the area that they've been in needs to be disinfected immediately. It's important to have a strong policy that if you feel ill, stay home, don't come to work. And that's really an important element of this. They need to know what the symptoms are of COVID-19. They just added 3 or 4 this weekend. So this is a part of your training that you're going to have to provide. Have employees notify the leader at the job site or somebody at the company if they have a family member that is ill with COVID-19, or they feel they've been exposed to COVID-19. Ask workers to self-identify. You're going to see that later in this presentation, before work even begins, you're going to do a little discussion with each worker. Have you had this? Have you had that? Do you do this? Whatever. This is really important. It's important, I think, that you consider using a thermometer at the job site to take an individual's temperature, each worker's temperature. It's a no touch. You don't touch, it's like a ray gun. And you take their temperature on their forehead, and anybody over 100.4 degrees is suspect and probably should not be on the job site. If the employees have any symptoms, they need to stay at home for 72 hours. Well, I should say stay at home until the symptoms have gone away for at least 72 hours, or as recommended by the CDC. Again, those recommendations keep changing, so you're going to have to pay attention. It's important to send an employee home or send all the employees home if somebody is identified on the job site as having COVID or symptoms of COVID. This is a really important element. Workers who don't believe it's safe shall be allowed to remove themselves from the work site. And of course, they get the benefits of the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which was brand new in the middle of March and provides for paid sick leave, federal, and federal expanded family and medical leave. Any worker coming from out of state to work in Washington state must quarantine for 14 days before they can work in a Washington state construction site. If an employee is identified as having COVID-19 infection, you need to advise the other employees on the job site, someone, you cannot use their name, someone on our job site has tested positive for COVID-19, and you need to talk to your medical practitioners and determine your best course of action. You cannot use the name of the individual that has COVID-19. That's against the law. You're going to have a daily attendance log of all workers and visitors to the job site, and you have to keep it for at least 4 weeks. Those are the 30 requirements to open or to continue doing roofing work in the state of Washington. These were negotiated by the AGC, the BIEW, and several of the building construction trades unions. And the only reason that we're at this point is because those folks put this together and agreed to all of them. I'm not sure why we ended up with the BIEW agreeing to a tepid water supply, but that's what's been the agreement, and we need to pay attention to that. So the RCW has developed a draft roofing reopening plan, and you can find that again on the RCW webpage. We've sent this plan to L&I's consultation services, so L&I can look at that plan, make recommendations, so L&I and we are on the same page. Understand that L&I is going to have a big role in the reopening of the construction industry and enforcement. So you're going to be watched closely by L&I. They don't have a lot else going on at this point. So this is my personal list of things you ought to consider. First, you have a company meeting prior to the reopening or prior to restarting roofing work. Make sure that everybody at the meeting is 6 feet apart. One person records who's at the meeting, keeps minutes, and you keep that record as you would with all your safety meetings. Review your company's safety plan. We suggest that every worker brings their own hand tools to the job site. They do not share hand tools at all. Worker can bring his own water chiller to the website. You provide the water, the employer provides the water. The employee can pick up a bottle or 6 bottles of water and put it in their own cooler. Their cooler is well marked. Nobody touches anybody else's cooler. It's just the only way to protect against transmission. The old big cooler that everybody went to and pushed the button and filled the glass is gone. That's history. These are individual bottles of water. Strongly suggest that all the workers arrive at the same job site in separate vehicles. No, big crew cabs loaded with people. One person per vehicle. We strongly suggest that each day you do a health screening at the job site before work is started. That's going through a list of questions. That's part of the training materials that's on the RCAW website. And I'm suggesting that you also look at doing temperature checks before people go to work. You need to have a COVID-19 exposure protection plan and conduct safety meetings using either by phone or with social distancing. Again, keeping records of who's there. You need to have a site supervisor, a COVID site supervisor, if there are 7 or more workers on the site. Now, that's obviously if it's a home builder and they got the plumbers in there and they got the electricians in there and they got the HVAC guys in there and you're in there, that's their responsibility to have the COVID supervisor, I would think. But you're going to have to work that out with the home builder. You make sure that you have your safety plan posted at the job site, your hygienic poster posted at the job site, and your COVID rights poster posted at the job site. You want to confirm each worker's health status prior to beginning work. Don't allow somebody with a temperature or who is coughing or whatever to work. Make sure that they're wearing their safety glasses, shields, gloves, appropriate face mask at all times. This is going to be an ongoing thing that you have to really look at carefully. You limit access to the job site, and I would suggest you screen visitors the same way you screen employees, including an L&I inspector, before they can be on the job site. Maintain records of all workers and visitors to the job site, and you keep those records for at least 4 weeks. This is part of the contact tracing requirements to try and figure out who may be exposed if somebody on the job site has COVID. You need to regularly check and make sure people are 6 feet apart. You need to plan your work so people just don't get too close to one another. This is a big, big deal. And the fines are significant if you don't do it. Provide running water and soap, hand sanitizer, and encourage people to use hand washing or sanitizing on a regular basis. I suggest you check with everybody about every 4 hours, see how they're feeling, maybe do a temperature check. I think those are some important considerations. Additional employer responsibility: clean and sanitize the work site, hand tools, equipment, vehicles. This is just something you got to maintain. When you clean the work site, we're talking about areas that would be frequently touched, making sure that those have been wiped down with sterilizing wipes to avoid transmission of COVID. Prohibit the sharing of tools and other items without sanitizing between uses. Maintain the safety data sheets for all the disinfectants used at the site. Keep those safety data sheets on site. Provide the protective equipment to employees that are assigned the cleaning responsibilities at the site. The employer needs to provide sanitized and separate drinking water supply for each worker. The worker can bring their own chilled their own water chiller as needed. Gloves, eye protection, face mask are required. Cleaning supplies, sanitizing wipes, all over the job site. Tepid hand washing facilities are required. Sanitizer is a secondary thing. We recommend a no-touch thermometer to take temperatures. Prior to beginning work, develop a job site safety COVID plan. Post that on the job site. One of the first things that L&I is going to be looking for. Hold a COVID safety meeting before work begins. Make sure there's social distancing, meeting attendance and minutes taken by one person written down and kept. No handouts. To avoid COVID transfer, it's posted. Identify required PPE, including face masks, safety glasses. Responsibilities of employees: don't come to work ill. Bring your own hand tools. Don't get closer than 6 feet from any other worker. Clean company tools before and after with company provided wipes. Company vehicle using an employee using company vehicle needs to clean that vehicle, including the door handles, armrest, steering wheel, heat controls, all the controls and the seat. Separate water supply for each worker, no large jug as we talked about previously. There are a number of issues about face masks. The big deal with most face masks is they are to protect people. If you're wearing a face mask, it is to protect others around you if you happen to cough or sneeze or whatever. It is not protection for you, it is protection for others. There are a variety of different designs that you can use. An N95 respirator is good, but they're supposed to be used once only. You can make your own face mask. There's some instructions shown on this particular slide. More information about face masks and cloths and how to use it. L&I's enforcement policy going forward, they've sent out a brand new directive as of Friday about how they're going to enforce all of this stuff. Okay, so they're going to actively be out and enforcing. Your accident prevention program. The first thing they said is they don't expect you necessarily to go out and have a rewritten accident prevention program today about what you're doing for COVID protection. What they're saying is they want to see what you're doing that is compliant with those 30 recommendations we just went through, and they'll consider whether you're in compliance or not in compliance. That's a pretty important issue. Performance here is the key to whether you're in compliance or not. Housekeeping. Are you doing a good job at keeping things maintained and sanitary? Do you have hand sanitizer employees can easily access? Is the washing facility there? Is it working? All these types of things. One of the things that got my attention here, if you're not doing it, a serious violation should strongly be considered. That's the advice to their inspectors. Hand washing. They're saying if you don't have the tepid hand washing facility, the inspector should consider it a serious or a willful violation. That's pretty tough stuff. So this is probably one of the more challenging elements of this whole thing that you have to comply with. Biological hazards. This is the issue of social distancing right here. And again, they're looking at this as potentially a serious violation if they find people that are too close together as they drive up looking at your facility or your site. So this is a big deal. Serious violations cost $13,260 max. Willfuls are $132, as are repeats, $132,600. We don't want anybody out there facing any of these fines. That's why we're doing this webinar. If you have a COVID affected worker, you have this new federal law that you need to deal with. Again, it came into effect in mid-March. It provides new federal paid sick leave money and new federal paid expanded family and medical leave money that you pay out. And we've given you a link there of basically what this law is all about. It's a big deal if it applies to your company. So you guys are at the tip of the reopening of the state of Washington for all businesses. It's going to be really important how the construction industry does in this reopening effort. If there's an increase in COVID cases while we start this reopening, there's a good chance that we're going to possibly get shut down again. So we're asking everybody to do everything they can to make this effort successful. I can tell you that I've got a lot of other small businesses out there who would love to be back in your situation, and they're not. This gives you an idea of the scope of the issue. We have 13,300 plus people that have got identified COVID infections in the state currently. We currently have about 200 a day new ones. We're really, the big focus right now with the government officials is they want to see this 200 a day number going down, not going up. If it starts going up, they're going to shut it down. The graph at the bottom of the page sort of shows you where we've been, where we're going, and this 200 a day is still way too high. That's my story. I'm eager to answer questions.
We have quite a few. So the first one is, so they can't use a water spigot on residential sites?
It's got to be tepid water, 60 to 100 degrees. And the question that's going to follow up is why? And the reason is primarily is because most people don't want to wash their hands in cold water. So they require, it's written right in there, tepid water. Tepid is defined by ASTM standards as 60 to 100 degrees.
Are the washing facilities for all size crews, or is there a minimum?
It just, you got to have what's adequate so everybody can have an ability to wash their hands. I mean, they don't have specifics yet. I would make sure that I had a good supply of tepid water and good access to hand washing facilities. It's a subjective term, good. That's really you got to argue the case. We've got an adequate supply of hand washing facilities here, and he's got to argue his side saying you don't. And there's no real standard. I'll look further in the wax or safety to see if they have size of hand washing facilities versus crew size, and I'll share that with Tracy and we'll go from there.
This is a comment per WAC 296.155.1402A. Tepid water must be between 70 and 100 degrees, not 60 and 100 degrees.
That's fine. We'll do 70. I looked it up in another place. I don't know if they're going to run a thermometer under it, but it can't be cold water. How's that?
Okay. This is almost impossible to do, especially the tepid water without a wash station. Are you dead in the water?
You're dead in the water.
This one just says, can we discuss the tepid water issue? Sounds like that seems to be the big crux.
It's a huge pain in the butt. Tracy and I both have been looking. One of the ways, of course, to do it is if you got an RV, but now you got a bunch of new touch surfaces, so that's a pain in the butt. It is. I don't know if somebody's going to come up and design something quickly or not. There's a business opportunity out there for somebody to develop that, because a lot of construction sites are going to need this. If you're the only one on the site, you're doing a re-roof, obviously you're going to be the guy or the gal that's responsible for having this tepid water supply at the job site.
How do we treat ladders on site with multiple people using the same ladders?
Ooh, that's a great question. You're going to have to come up with a way to basically use a sanitizer on a long pole and clean the ladders off.
Sanitizers, wipes, etc. are scarce. How can contractors acquire these scarce items?
Sorry, I don't have a quick answer for that one. You are correct. They are scarce.
I know that there have been some of these items available on Amazon lately, and I had posted a thermometer a couple weeks ago in the weekly newsletter that's available online, a no-touch thermometer. So I will put those resources back up on our website as I find them. So if you're looking for them, then there'll be something there with links for you. The next question is, I can't imagine that all of this is required, and if so, not being followed in food handling, grocery stores, or coffee shops, or any other industries other than ours.
I'm going to go back to ladders for just a second. I would suggest the best thing on ladders at this point is to make sure that the folks are wearing gloves when they're using the ladder. That's probably your best protection right there. Okay. And it might be one set of gloves to climb up and down on the ladder and another set of gloves when you're working. But gloves, I think, is your best protection. As far as why is this happening? Again, the AGC, the BIAW, and the labor unions got together, and this is the list that they developed. Again, I don't know why the BIAW necessarily agreed to all of this, including the tepid water, but that's what they have agreed to. That's what the requirements are. It's an industry, a construction industry agreed to list of requirements. As far as what they're doing at grocery stores and other places, they're not part of this. This agreement was worked out by the industry.
Any suggestions to providing tepid water on a job site if you're only there for 1 to 3, depending on the project?
One of the things I'd do is I'd set up either not a barbecue, but a propane water, something to boil water on or heat water on, and have a big thermos of water there that has a pump on it. You don't want people touching the same device, but they can turn the handle on and get warm water flowing out, and there's soap there. That's the easiest way I can think of. I've been all over the internet. Most of these devices use propane heaters to heat water, and they're in the area of $1,000. There are some lower cost ones, but the reviews were terrible on them. So it's an internet search.
Would you suggest using customers' restrooms for hot water?
If you can get the laundry, most laundry tubs have the faucet has a hose bib on it, a male hose bib on it, and you can screw a hose into it. But the challenge is the water is not going to be warm if it's running down a hose and you're not running the hose on a regular basis. Going in the customer's house or customer's building, you've got a lot more touch points you got to be cleaning on the way out. You got to figure that one out, unfortunately, yourself.
What about where a worker is by himself and the only person working on the site? Do they need face covering?
Yes.
Does a contract executed prior to the shutdown constitute the start of a project, or do you physically have to start the job for it to be in progress?
Well, that depends on how the department decides to enforce the law. And it's going to be probably really hard for the department to be able to say, gosh, this job was not started before the 25th of March or the 23rd of March. Therefore, this is not a eligible project. I don't know how. It's going to be a fact pattern issue. I don't think they're going to get that fussy.
Next one, if a general contractor hires a roofing subcontractor with employees doing the work, who is responsible for the job site requirements?
General. The general, he or she might transfer that responsibility to the individual subs, but the general is generally responsible for the job site.
I believe this one was already pretty much asked and answered, but can you ask the residential customer to give you hot water as long as there is social distancing?
That's fine. They could come out the door and have a big bucket of water and hot water, and you could pour it into a container that has a pump in it. So the pump provides you running tepid water. Yes.
Okay. This one says, I see a Culligan styled tepid water tank on Amazon for $130. It's just a comment. That'd be great. Whoever sent us that, please send us the link and I'll share it with everybody else. What qualifies as a wash station?
Tepid water and soap and something to dry your hands with. And one of the big factors here is spending 20 seconds with soap on your hands, rubbing your hands together.
The amount of tepid water isn't noted, so would a 12-cup coffee pot be considered a tepid water hand station?
Well, it depends on how many people are there and how many times they're going to be using it. There's a possibility you could heat water in a coffee maker. Yes, that's one of the options. The big challenge you got is it's supposed to be running water. Okay, so you have to have a pump someplace in the process so the water is running.
This is just a comment that suggests that you ask your workers and office staff to find and purchase cleaning supplies and then reimburse the employees for purchases.
I think that's a good idea.
What if you spray paint an igloo cooler black and let the sun warm it up?
Well, the igloo cooler is actually going to try and keep the temperature of the water inside cold. You could. I was thinking the same thing. A small solar heater would be not a bad move, but an igloo cooler is a thermos, and it's trying to keep it cold, not keep it warm. Unless you put warm water in it.
Yeah. Most all the SaniCan companies are providing hand wash stations. These do not have heated water, but would they think that this would comply?
Again, the requirement is tepid water.
This is another comment. Something to consider. Adapt a wash station with a 110-volt instant hot water tank and a water pump with the tank. You can't use the same water as others to wash your hands.
That's correct. You cannot.
So we can't start a new job, only jobs that are already in progress. When will we be able to start new jobs?
This is a phase in that more things will open up if this goes well. So this is our first shot. The construction industry is the first industry to have this opportunity. I can tell you I've got restaurateurs and I've got auto repair shops and a ton of others that are just dying to open up. So you guys are the in the lead industry to get to try this.
This is a really good idea. Will a water cooler with a hot water dispenser work?
Well, you can't have the water too hot, 100 degrees.
But if you pushed both hot and cold, it would mix.
That's fine. I'm just, so you know.
If you show up to the job, go directly to roof and not come off the roof until the work is completed, what is the time frame in between cleaning your hands?
Well, I would suggest that you'll want everybody to probably wash their hands before they go to work. They're not going to put on gloves. They're going to go up on the job and work. It sounds to me like a repair question more than a roofing question. So they go up on the roof and they work for an hour or two doing the repair. They would come off the roof, wash their hands at that point, at minimum.
I thought this new phase let us start new roof replacements.
It's very clearly written. Jobs in progress.
Yeah. I did get a
that slide.
That Amazon cooler, so I will be posting that.
There's the slide. That's what it says. It's quoted. Current construction projects to be completed. You can attempt to define the word current any way you'd like. The challenge is if you get cited, you're going to have to deal with it.
If a job is under contract, though, that's in progress. Is that something that is kind of a nitpicky?
I don't think the issue of defining current is nearly as big as meeting all of the other 30 requirements. If they see you roofing, they're going to be much more interested in the fact whether you're doing it meeting these 30 requirements or not.
So this new phase where it's working on jobs that are in progress, this comes alongside, though, the essential work that we were already allowed to do. Is that correct?
That's correct. This is just a little bit more opening.
And that looks like that's the end of the questions that we have.
I don't know if you can do a poll. I'd be interested to see what people thought if this was useful or not.
We can definitely send out a poll, absolutely, to everyone who attended after this is over. This is, let's see, one more. Here's one more question. Can you fill a thermos with the hot water like coffee and then, pour it over your hands as running water?
As long as it's not over 100 degrees.
Okay. And we had some nice comments to thank us and tell us that this was very useful. So we appreciate that.
Thank you. Yes. I can tell you that Tracy spent a great deal of time. I can't tell you how many times I've revised this presentation in order to make it as helpful as I thought it could be.
And that's the hard thing about this situation, is that it's really fluid and it's changing constantly, as you all know. So please, as things change, I post them to the reopening page on our website. I'll send you information. I know sometimes it seems like you're getting a lot of emails from me lately, but it's just to keep you informed. And our weekly email, I'm trying to make as relevant as possible with links to anything new that comes up. We want to get you all back to work, though. That's the main goal here, is to make sure that you all have all the tools so you can get back to work and you can be safe and healthy doing it and avoid any of these horrendous fines.
Well, the fines are tough. The COVID is even worse. And the better that we do at this and avoid COVID infections, the better we'll be. The other request I would make of everybody that's tuned in here is, if you have any interaction with L&I, we would like to know. We're not going to use your company name. We just want to know what L&I is doing out in the field. So it's very important for us to get feedback so we can share it with others of what L&I did at your site.
Absolutely. And then one more is we can still do repairs residentially and commercially. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
But you need to add all these 30 items. Probably weren't doing it before today. You need to add all these 30 items to what you have been doing.
Okay, and here's one more. I think I'm most confused about not being able to start new projects. Of course, it would be under contract if we started.
Again, the issue is you could end up with an argument about whether it was a current project or not. I don't think anybody's going to get into that issue big time. It's meeting the 30 requirements, I think, is the bigger issue.
Exactly. And then homemade masks are acceptable, just want to make sure.
Yes.
And just so you know, I posted some information on homemade masks and links to how to make them and this and that on the reopening website. It's toward the end of the page. There is a guide for using N95 masks, and then there's a guide for your using and making homemade masks. And then how long do you think these regulations will last? Weeks, days, months, years?
They're going to be around for at least the end of the year until there is a good treatment and a vaccine for COVID. And the challenge we have is COVID is probably going to morph into something else different from what it is today in the next year. So we're going to be chasing this thing for a while.
Let's see. Are bandanas okay to wear in lieu of masks?
Yes. I'm going to suggest that that's a legal question and you talk to an attorney, but as I understand it, the CDC is very happy with that. The whole idea is to cover your nose and mouth with the bandana. Tuck the bottom end of the bandana into your coat or your shirt or whatever. So there's no potential for any droplets to get out of inside that mask. And you need to wash the masks daily.
This is just a comment. I read on the CDC site that you must have 2 layers of cotton on the mask, so bandana doesn't sound like it would work to me.
Well, most people take a cloth and double it over and use the triangle to tie behind the back of their head, so there'd be 2 layers of cloth.
Correct. And if anyone needs legal assistance and does not have a construction attorney already, just contact me and I can give you some referrals. And with that, it looks like we don't have any more questions. So we hope you all found this really informative and helpful. And please go to our website and please just email me at Tracey, Tracey at rcaw.com. If you have any questions whatsoever, I'm always available and want to help in any way that I can.
One last word. Please plan ahead before you jump into roofing. Think about this stuff and get your company set up right before you jump in. The companies that are going to get nailed are those that don't do the planning before they start doing roofing.
Okay, I'm going to jump in with one more question and then we'll be done. Would performing maintenance be considered a repair?
Yes, as a matter of fact, it is. I mean, obviously, you know, I don't know if y'all listen to Dave Ross. He's been trying to get his roof cleaned. He's got a fir tree that drops stuff on his roof, on his cedar roof. But of course, if you don't clean it, you're going to end up with a rotted mess. So he's been trying to get his roof cleaned for over a month now, and they finally said, yes, you can clean your roof. So maintenance is part of spoliation, which is a term used in the governor's executive order. and you can, in fact, do activities to avoid spoliation.
And this whole webinar has been recorded. And once the recording is available, I will post it on the website, and you'll be able to click a link and go to it and rewatch it. I will also have the slides downloadable as well. And anything else that you might need, again, just contact us at Tracy, Tracey, at rcaw.com. And on behalf of the RCAW and all of its members and attendees, Gary, I just want to thank you so much for all of this information. It was incredible and informative, and we really appreciate it.
Good luck to all.
All right. Thank you all for attending. Have a great day.